Hello, and welcome back. This video is about updating the user interface for upgrade and breakdown actions. And a special thanks to all my supporters. Thank you for helping me help others. So as a reminder, when we left click in the world and we're hovering over a tower, this get tower under mouse will return a tower. We end up calling select tower here. Select tower will effectively unselect the current tower, and the tower that's sent will get selected. So in there, we are creating the BP Tower Actions. That is the owner of the widget that'll display the stuff, display the buttons. And we're sending along 4 actions for the 4 buttons. So when we want to set it up so that a tower can be upgraded or broken down, we're going to reset some of these values. Now the problem is, as the code currently stands, if we set one of these to none, and we go through and I'm not going to do it. You play the game, you pop open the UI. Because it's none, one of the buttons just won't have any texture set to it. But if you hover over it, the tooltip will effectively crash Unreal. The reason why that is effectively is in our widget Tower Actions. Init Actions gets called, and then in Init Actions, we're calling Init Action slot for each of those slots. Or we're sending along the slot and the action. Those are all good. But in here, we're checking the map to see if there's textures. The none value will have no textures because we didn't set anything up for that. And in that case, it'll just return from the function right here. However, because of the way the blueprint interfaces work, when you send it as a variable, this not being sent or set basically is causing the problem. So what we're going to do is we're going to take this off. We're just going to copy this or drag this over here. I'm going to call a sequence instead. And copy all this. And just move it over so that we can guarantee that these values down here get set. Now, a better fix is probably to actually convert this variable and where it's used elsewhere into an actor. And then as an actor, you can check whether it's none and then verify that it has, or that it implements the interface, and then it works, very similarly to how it's going now. However, I would have thought in our tooltip here under construct, I would have thought this is valid interface would take care of that, but this is actually where it's throwing an exception. So that fix will resolve the issue for now. If you prefer to do it with a variable, feel free. It's not that hard, but I don't want to include it in the video because it's just a lot of extra, airtime, so to speak. So with that done, I'm going to import the new textures I created for the upgrade and breakdown. And with those PNGs added to the folder, we get this pop-up here. We're just going to import that. And we have our nice new textures. With that, then, we need to go back into our widget and update these 3 maps. This will be upgrade normal, breakdown normal, similarly hovered and pressed. And with that done, we go back into our tower base. So the way the tower base works as well is that the tower base is the object that is created when the map is loaded. If you click on it, then it sends along the 4 build values. And then it gets converted, well, if you build, it gets converted into one of the other towers, but it still calls the same functionality. So we're just going to make all of these variables. We'll just call it tower action, etc., and get rid of the spaces. Interestingly, when you create a variable like that, it pops it, where it feels like, which in this case is way up here. You take the space out of that one. You do also have the option of dragging out here and just typing promote. And you can promote it that way and it'll be placed around where you had your mouse. A little convenient, save a little time. And then of course, you forget to take the spaces out. I do need to make this one back to build turret. So they should all be as normal now. But now we have to go into each of the towers and update the values there. So in our ballista tower, these 4 values, we are going to want upgrade, none, none, and breakdown. We'll do that for the other 3 towers. And then I'll just close all 4 of those because we shouldn't need them again. In our tower base, I'm going to create 2 new functions. Get upgrade cost. The output of this is just going to be an integer. And then I'm just going to duplicate that to maintain the function signature, and this one will be called get breakdown refund. And we'll just change cost here to refund. So our upgrade cost, first we're going to do a sequence. Sequence isn't actually required in this case, but I like how it looks. We need to add a new variable called upgrade level. This, of course, will be an int. It will be initially 0, which is what we want. And when we have an int variable, we can drag it out and do switch on int. So in the case of switching on int here, our upgrade levels would be 0, which is what it is when it's first created. And then you can upgrade it 3 times, so 1, 2, and 3. So obviously that means we need pins for 0, 1, 2, and we don't need 3. In the case where it is 0, we'll take out our tower data, we can split this, and we're just going to take our upgrade cost, convert this to a local variable. We'll call this the cost. And the logic here is we're currently upgrade level 0, and we're upgrading to, or we're getting the cost for the first upgrade, which is 1. So we can copy and paste this a few times for the other 2. Hook them up. And then we're just using our return node over here. Oops, with the cost, returning as the cost. Next up, the get breakdown refund will be a little more complicated, which is good because then I get to use another sequence. So similarly, we're getting our information from our tower data. Initially, we need to make or add the tower build data cost by promoting that to a local variable called the refund. If your tower has been built, you've paid the build cost, and therefore the refund starts at that value. And if the upgrade level is higher than 0, then we want to check for that. So we'll add a few more pins. We're going to get our upgrade level. check to see if it is greater than or equal to, and this will be 1. So in the case where it's been upgraded once or more, we'll take our upgrade cost. No, let me do it the other way. We'll take our refund. We'll add it to it, the upgrade cost, and then set that back to the refund. So at this point, the upgrade cost will be the initial build cost plus the first upgrade if it's valid. And of course, I'm just choosing to do it this way. You could do any sort of logic which accomplishes the same thing, which could include doing another switch on int for the upgrade level and just calculating each one individually. I prefer to do it this way. It's kind of like a little loop, an unrolled loop. So we just hook up the proper inputs here. We make sure that these values are now 2 and 3. And that looks good. And then lastly, of course, we need to return, which we can just throw down in one last sequence pin, the refund. And lastly, these functions are being called in our get tower details, which is the interface, which is called by the UI. So in our get tower details, we have our 4 build options. They use the tower manager to get a specific tower type because, as a reminder, this tower base has no tower type when it's the actual base. When it's been spawned into a tower, then it does have a tower type. In this case, we're just setting the this tower data value and using it over here to create the string. So in the case of our upgrade and breakdown, we can call our functions, drag that in there and down here. We need to add a return node. And that's going to give us the cost. And then we can just use the tower data to get or create the text. So I'll split this open. We use an append. And for the tooltip text here, we're just going to say upgrade the tower name. Shift enter for Mo power, Mo problems. For our breakdown costs, similarly, we're just calling that function. To also do a return node. In this case, we don't need to make a string with the tower name. Just going to type in break it down. Yo, Gabba style. And with all that done, everything will crash and make me look like a fool. So let's see it happen. So we pop in a tower. Once the tower is created, we can click on it again and we get our upgrade and sell options. I forgot one minor change for that, but up here we have upgrade with the text we set and the breakdown with the text we set. In the get breakdown refund, I'm just calculating the total cost that the player has spent to upgrade or to build and potentially upgrade the tower, and that's the refund value. If you want to use a percentage of that, you can still use all that same functionality and then just multiply this by some value. You can convert this one here to a float and make it 0.5 or 0.25 or whatever you want. You would then need to, it would get converted back into a int, and that's fine. The one thing I forgot to record in my prep notes is, I'll just add a pin here for it, but what's happening is we want our action. We're just checking to make sure that it is not equal to none. In the case where it is, we'll check our action slot down here. We'll set visibility. And if it's true, it's going to be visible. When it's not true, it will be hidden. Oops. And with that said, and we run it again, create a tower, click on it, and there we just have the 2. However, apparently that logic still needs to be updated as well. It's showing it as disabled because the cost ended up being less than the value we have as coins. So that logic is back in our Tower Actions Blueprint in our onCoins changed. We're setting our buttons enabled depending on the cost versus the coins. So what we want to do is also drag in the appropriate tower action. We can convert this, or at least put an and in the center. Actually an or. We want an or Boolean in the case where the cost is all good, or the case where the tower action is equal to breakdown. Then it should set it as enabled. I'm going to copy this to the other locations. Realize I don't need that tower action. Oh, good. I thought I was going to reset the compare. I mean, it took out the breakdown, which was a little bit of a pain, but it's all right. All right, so let's try with those buttons again. Pop up the expensive ones. All right, we used it all. And even though we only have 60 coins and the breakdown cost is more than 60, then the button is enabled as expected. However, no, that's fine. That's 60. Oh, it's not going to be able to kill anything in time. But that logic we saw in the previous video. So all good. In the next video, we'll add the actual upgrade and breakdown functionality. So thanks for watching. If you liked the video and would like to see more, you know what to do. And if you would like to support this channel, watch these videos 2 weeks early, or just want to download the project files, you can do so through my Patreon linked below.